What is jealousy? I'll use two definitions. Number one, showing envious resentment of someone in their achievements, possessions, or perceived advantages. Number two, in a fiercely or possessive way. If you're familiar with 1 Samuel, you'll know that jealousy was one of Saul's stumbling blocks that caused him to lose his status as king, lose his relationship with God, and is what caused him to chase David. But before we get into that, I want to explain who Saul is. King Saul is introduced to us in 1 Samuel chapter 9 as an impressive young man without equal among the Israelites, a head taller than any of the others. He was the son of Kish from the tribe of Benjamin. Although Saul was anointed as king, it came from the request of Israel, a request that displeased Samuel but allowed by God. 1 Samuel chapter 8 verse 8 tells us that the Israelites rejected God as their king, forsaken him, and served other gods. God told Samuel to anoint Saul as king, but warned them solemnly and let them know what the king will do. Saul didn't officially become king until 1 Samuel chapter 11 verse 14 to 15, when Samuel and the Israelites went to Gilgal and confirmed Saul as king in the presence of the Lord. There they sacrificed fellowship offerings before the Lord, and Saul and all the Israelites held a great celebration. However, good times didn't last long, as we see in chapter 13, where Samuel rebukes Saul because of an offering he made. It happened when Saul and Jonathan attacked the Philistine outpost at Geba, but the Philistines fought back with their army as numerous as the sand on the seashore. When the men of Israel saw that the situation was critical, they hid in caves, thickets, rocks, and in pits and cisterns. Some Hebrews crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul remained at Gilgal because he was waiting for Samuel to come so that he can offer the burnt offering. But Samuel had not yet arrived, and in response, Saul grew impatient and went out of his way to offer the sacrifice himself. When Samuel arrived, he rebuked Saul because Saul offered the sacrifice of his own accord, not aligned with God's command as told in 1 Samuel chapter 10 verse 8. Saul in this situation was both impatient and prideful, not wanting to follow God's command, but rather go his own path, which made him unfit to rule. This is the first act that caused his fall. His second stumbling block, which is the main focus of this video, is jealousy. After God rejected Saul as king, he sent Samuel to Jesse of Bethlehem because God has chosen one of Jesse's sons as king. This son is due to us as David, the youngest of Jesse's sons, tending the sheep. David is described to have a ruddy, fine appearance and handsome features. God told Samuel that he is the chosen one, and David was anointed. David and Saul's first encounter is recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 14 to 23, when the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul and an evil spirit tormented him. Saul's attendants took notice of this and suggested to find someone that can play an instrument to make Saul feel better. One of his servants answered that a son of Jesse of Bethlehem knows how to play the harp. He is a brave man and a warrior. He speaks well and is a fine-looking man, and the Lord is with him. When David entered Saul's service, he liked him very much and told Jesse, "Allow David to remain in my service, for I am pleased with him." David would go on to lead Israel to victory against the Philistines, with God aiding him in the fight, especially when he fought Goliath. David feared nothing against the giant, as he knew the Lord was with him, and with a successful slingshot, Goliath was slain. However, this victory would lead Saul's jealousy towards David, because after the war, 1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 6 to 7 tells us that the women from all towns of Israel danced and played with their instruments, singing, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." This angered Saul, as what the women were singing sounding like David was superior compared to him. From that time onward, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. The next day, an evil spirit from God came upon Saul while he was prophesying in his house. He had a spear in his hand and hurled it, but David eluded it twice. Saul became afraid of David when he realized that God had left him and was with David. The next move he makes is to use his daughters to snare David, because as surely as the Lord lives, Saul will not strike a hand on David, but he thinks it's still possible if another hand does it, and Saul is thinking about the Philistines. If David marries any of Saul's daughters, Saul will make sure that the Philistines will be against him. However, this fails, as even though Saul's daughter, Michal, marries David, God's help enabled David to defeat the Philistines. But even Saul's daughter didn't work, as she too, like Jonathan, was trying to help him escape from Saul's grip. We see Saul try another attempt to kill David in chapter 19, when he tells his son Jonathan and his attendants to go after David. But Jonathan was very fond of David and warned him to be on his guard tomorrow morning. He says to him, "Go into hiding and stay there. I'll speak to my father about you and tell you what I find out." Jonathan tried to reason with his father twice that David had done nothing wrong and asked why he should be put to death. The first time, Saul said, "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." And so David was with Saul once more, and when war broke out against the Philistines, David won again. In 1 Samuel 20, Jonathan tried to reason with Saul again, but this time, Saul's response was, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman! Don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send someone to bring him to me, for he must die." Saul continues to make multiple attempts to capture David, but failed in all those attempts because God was protecting him. Saul met his end at the final chapter of 1 Samuel when he takes his own life while fighting the Philistines. Then in 2 Samuel, David hears of Saul and Jonathan's death and laments. From what we've learned throughout this video, it's safe to say that being envious can make you adopt a destructive behavior. Saul took extreme measures to take David's life, but failed at all attempts. The Spirit of the Lord even departed from him because God knew that Saul's deeds were not aligned with what he wanted and stood against Saul. Saul even went as far as to consult a witch to aid him, only for Samuel to come back and rebuke him.